Star Trek has often delivered episodes with such grandeur that we, the audience, need a few minutes to come down once the credits roll. These offerings can be single episodes, two-parters, or even films, ramping the action up to 11 and nailing the premise. The franchise has rarely shied away from tackling the cataclysmic, even if sometimes it leaves the world ending as something a bit smaller. Maybe it's just the one world this week. We can try for the Empire in a fortnight. The examples on this list are episodes and films that have offered a true glimpse of the end of all things for crews, for continents and beyond. There are also a number of them that, as of writing, remain unresolved. So there's still a strong chance that we could see sequels, prequels, requels and sidequels of lists along the way. Honestly, sometimes we just want a list of top 10 flowers Boothby planted at the Academy. This is not that list. I'm Sean Ferrick for TrekCulture, and here are 10 Star Trek episodes with the highest stakes. Number 10. 0 Hour. As Star Trek Enterprise's third season came to a close, the stakes couldn't have been higher for Earth, Starfleet and Captain Archer's crew. The Xindi reptilians had gone rogue, breaking away from their council, destroying other Xindi who came to stop them, and were focused entirely on eradicating humanity. Not the nicest Saurians in the galaxy. The Xindi superweapon had been deployed despite the efforts of the late lamented Degra and was en route to Earth. If Archer and Hoshi couldn't stop it, it was curtains for our future. Earth had already felt the searing power of a miniature version of the deadliest ballgame in existence, with 7 million bodies lining those courts. Meanwhile, Enterprise itself was tasked with destroying the Sphere Builders' physical bases in the Delphic Expanse, lest they turn the galaxy into an uninhabitable, for humans, waste. With the clock ticking to Judgment Day, it truly came down to the wire for Starfleet's first family, and as the dust settled, seemingly not all of our favourite faces made it back home again. Number 9. All Good Things. Sometimes Star Trek comes along with a problem that is so enormous one wonders, how the hell are they supposed to beat this one? All Good Things was one such problem. Here was an anomaly growing larger as it travelled back through time, eventually, or initially, blocking the creation of all life in the galaxy. For Jean-Luc Picard, this problem for the ages became something very real and threatening. Q drafted him, bouncing the captain through time from the Enterprise D's first days to the waning years of the man's life. He may have been Q's pet, but there was a reason that it was Picard who was given the task. Jean-Luc Picard was the man responsible, however inadvertently, for destroying all life in the galaxy. Thanks, Johnny. Q, however, understood the potential that not just Picard, but humanity itself offered. They may have wiped everything out in the past, but they had the capacity to explore the strangest of new worlds in the future. All they needed was a little nudge. Number 8. Star Trek VI: The Undiscovered Country. Though the stakes were high, thankfully this wasn't a galactic life ender, at least not in the short term anyway. The hostilities between the Federation and the Klingon Empire had been on a slow boil for decades by the time that Praxis exploded. Were it not for that, they could easily have erupted into open war again, spelling doom for all surrounding worlds. When the cabal of traitors, ironically working together to derail the peace talks, did their best to assassinate anyone and everyone who might truly achieve peace, it was down to the Enterprise A and the Excelsior to save the day. This was a mission of espionage, border violations, aerial battle, and a flagrant disregard for Kittimer's invite list. Kirk and Sulu overcome Chang, Spock exposes Valeris, Scotty whacks west, Uhura gets the ship across the border, Chekhov discovers the crucial blood clue, and McCoy is getting too old for this. It's peak original series fare, with certainly quadrantic consequences if they fail. The crew's final journey was nothing if not spectacular. Number 7. Coming Home. Species 10C were accidentally responsible for the destruction of and near extinction of Quajon and its people. Their energy harvesters, or dark matter anomalies, were simple in their task and devastating in their effects. Boronite was too tempting to pass up, so away the DMA went, without regard for local life. Though the 10C were a fully sentient race, they were also advanced to the point that they didn't understand human life and others like it, that they were equally aware. They were, technically, arrogant to the point of destruction, but not so far gone they couldn't listen to reason. By the final moments of Star Trek Discovery's 4th season, a DMA was approaching Earth. Starfleet simply didn't have the technology to combat such a weapon, so the evacuation of the planet was the only option, and with a population of nearly 8 billion in 2024 alone, allow for another 1,000 years of births, deaths and marriages? That's going to be a hell of a job. The ships in orbit were on a losing mission from the jump, so it truly came down to the Envoy attempting to communicate with the 10C. If they hadn't have been successful, there would have been one less bright blue ball in the sky. Number 6. The Last Generation. Star Trek Picard's third season offered something bold and new in the history of Picard. It brought the Borg back. Now, look, groaning aside, how many times is this now? It did so in such a way that was unsettling and new. These weren't our parents' Borg. In fact, therein lay the point. Assimilation always seemed the greatest path to victory for the collective, so how could this desiccated queen hope to gain the upper hand over the Alpha Quadrant? It was still going to come down to technology, but it was pre-positronic, not cybernetic, that almost spelled curtains for all. Inside the body of Jean-Luc Picard, tucked away on Daystrom Station, was the key to controlling Starfleet, or at least the younger bodies on offer. The transporters betrayed their crews, assimilating millions before anyone knew what was happening. When the Queen flicked the on switch, every person under the age of 26 who had beamed in stepped out in their Borg best. It was a deeply unnerving twist in Star Trek Picard. Here was the true final battle between the Borg and Starfleet, with no time travel or other hijinks to save the day. Number 5. The Way of the Warrior. Star Trek Deep Space Nine knew how to up the ante, with this Season 4 opener exploding onto our screens with honour. The Next Generation had come to a close, Star Trek Generations had seen the early retirement of the Enterprise D, and Lieutenant Commander Worf was suddenly left adrift. Thankfully, the Klingons went crazy. Though Star Trek had dealt with Klingon wars before, see Star Trek VI, and would do so again, looking at you, Star Trek Discovery, The Way of the Warrior was the first true cinematic battle between the two major forces, single double ship headbanging notwithstanding. Model kits exploded in clouds of glitter while hand-to-hand combat was next level. It never truly seemed like DS9 was going to lose the fight, but the episode does see Gowron tear up the Khitomer Accords, declare war on the Federation and the Cardassians, promise that there will be more hostilities to come, and once again strip Worf of his honour. The status quo was destroyed, the Alpha Quadrant saw a fundamental power shift, and Star Trek Deep Space Nine received a new breath of life. Number 4. Supernova. The living construct is one of the more insidious creations in the franchise's history. The idea is simple. Create a weapon that, rather than destroying planets with sustained fire or warping transporters into alcoves, turns each and every Starfleet vessel into their own worst enemies. The Vauna Cat, in doing so, brought the wolves right to the door in Supernova. While Dal, Gwyn and the crew of the Protostar just wanted to find Starfleet, they also carried with them the means of Starfleet's annihilation. Once the Protostar made contact with another ship, the living construct would activate, transferring its deadly virus into the next vessel and the next until the fleet tore itself apart. In Supernova, this very nearly came to pass. Ships like the Defiant, the Sovereign, the Centaur, and, depending on who you ask, the Enterprise E, were all infected, immediately turning their quantum torpedoes and phaser fire on each other. Though often unsaid, Starfleet vessels contain deadly weapons of destruction. When used against one another, this can spell doom for the crews on board. Number 3. Oroborus. Star Trek Prodigy, when announced, came under fire for being a kids' show. How the writers must have hid their grins behind their hands when people assumed this, knowing what was coming. A kids' show, you say? Would you like some galactic levels of death and destruction with that Happy Meal? The first season gave audiences the living construct, while the second gave us the loom. These villains were simple creatures that travelled through time and space, feeding on the energy left by temporal cracks. Oh, and did we mention that if they catch you, they erase you from history? They erase you from history. Everything you ever were, or ever could be, is vaporized. No one remembers you, as you never were. If that isn't terrifying, we don't know what is. The only way to make it worse would be to deliver the entire army of these nasties upon the universe, which is exactly what happened in Oroborus Part 2. Though Wesley Crusher was able to help the crews of the Protostar and the Voyager A beat them back, they managed to inflict devastating levels of damage on time. Number 2. A in Arcadia Ego Part 2. Someone really should check on those mechanical beasties, shouldn't they? A prophecy leading to an admonition terrified the Romulan Zhat Vash so thoroughly that all artificial life was banned throughout the Romulan Empire. Though Lieutenant Commander Data was left blessedly intact through the 2360s and 70s, the same could not be said for other positronic people. On the planet of Jure 4, a colony of Soong-type androids flourished, thanks to the efforts of Bruce Maddox and Alton Soong. However, this was largely because Starfleet, and by extension of O, the Zhat Vash, were unaware of them. Once discovered, it was a race against time to save the planet from a Romulan armada. The catch was that, technically, the Romulans were right all along. These androids had the power to summon apocalyptic mechanical beings from another reality, bent on protecting artificial life by destroying organics. Had they managed to come through the portals, these beings would have obliterated every world, sparing only those brains that needed charging. They have been stopped for now, but they are still out there, waiting to be called again. Number 1. Sacrifice of Angels. This was televised Star Trek as we had never seen it before. The scale, the imagery, the stakes, oh my bountiful Cardassian neckridges, the stakes. Operation Return was the culmination of Deep Space Nine's 6th season, 6-episode opener. The Dominion War was in full swing, and this was not a happy time for Starfleet. Losing DS9 in Call to Arms was a blow, though the destruction of the 7th Fleet was even more crippling. Heading into the penultimate year of the show, the audience was given a version of the future that was finally, truly, dark. Favor the Bold and Sacrifice of Angels served a double whammy of building the stakes to breaking. The close of that first episode sees the largest on-screen standoff that Trek had yet offered. Nail-biting barely does it justice. Then, the opening moments of the second episode truly shred the nerves, continuing as the Federation fleet begins its attack on the Dominion Alliance. It was a battle that has yet to be matched, though that's not to say the franchise hasn't given us quite a few contenders along the way. That's everything for our list today, folks. Thank you so much for watching along. Please be an absolute legend and hit that subscribe button. It makes a massive difference when you do. Please don't forget to like and share this as well. I have been Sean. You can follow me on the various socials at Sean Ferrick. Make sure that you're following TrekCulture on the various socials as well. Live long and prosper till I see you again, my friends. Thanks very much.